Cole, I saw something really cool on Facebook, man. A sentimental gift that you gave to your kid, and it hit me right in the heart. I've got a 9-year-old son, and anything that I can bring back from my past or childhood that he can carry on or hang on to usually is pretty significant. And you were able to bring back your childhood bike that your dad gave to you and that you learned to ride on and restored it and gave it to your son. I got to imagine that was a pretty cool moment from a dad standpoint.
Yeah, and I got to give my dad credit. He's the one that held on to it. He's the one that saved it, and it was actually his gift to my son for his 3rd birthday. And he sort of discussed it with me a while back, and just said, hey, when he's ready for a bike, I've got this one, and we were going to have to get him something soon. It's still a little bit too big for him, but he took it in, got new tires, new grips on the handlebars. He got new pedals, kind of cleaned it up, had it refurbished a little bit, and I mean it looks good as new, and it's he'll learn to ride on that bike too. Pretty cool that I got that bike like 35 years ago, and now my son will learn how to ride on it as well. And then I guess his brother will probably learn how to ride on it after that. So pretty cool that my dad kept that thing around and kept it in good enough condition where we can still use it. But yeah, that was pretty neat to see.
That is good stuff. Cole Cubelic joining us here. Tex Morris, Edward Jones brings us this conversation every week. You guys are both Auburn grads. You were an Auburn offensive lineman. I've asked you on this topic before. I know you didn't play for Coach Dye. But Dye was the face of Auburn football, especially in the 80s, where he was a part of 4 SEC championships. That 83 team was so good. And, of course, Bo Jackson, he passed away earlier this week, which I know was a tough loss for the Auburn family. When I say the name Pat Dye to an Auburn alum, what do you think?
Well, he's probably, for most Auburn fans, on the Mount Rushmore of Auburn football. I mean, I think you got Shook Jordan there. You got Pat Dye there. You got Bo Jackson there. And then probably, depending how old you are, you're either going to go Pat Sullivan or Cam Newton for your 4th. So I think the younger generation is probably going to go Cam. I think the older generation probably go Pat Sullivan. But listen, his name's on the field. He helped get the Iron Bowl to campus. He recruited Bo Jackson. He won SEC championships. He did a lot of good things for Auburn football. He's one of the most respected and renowned coaches in SEC football history, and like I said, a guy that didn't go on to coach anywhere else. He kind of hung around the program for a while after he coached and was finished coaching, and continued to be a part of Auburn football and Auburn athletics after that. So he's somebody that a lot of Auburn fans hold in very high regard.
Talking to Cole Cubelic here on 104.5 with the 94.7 ESPN.
T-Bob?
Yes.
T-Bob's there today?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm back today.
I didn't see you on the video, and I didn't hear your name coming in, so I thought you were taking some more time off.
No, I'm keeping a little low-key today, but I am here. Thank you for joining us, Cole. It's always nice to speak with you. Alabama football players are returning to campus, and they got tested ahead of time, as they do. And I think they had 5 players test positive for COVID. Do you have any insight into how this will affect things going forward? Is that a problem for football? Is it not a problem because it's showing that you can get it and they can like quarantine and handle it? What's your reaction when you saw that report?
I think it's a problem, but I think it's a minor problem. Number one, because of where we are on the calendar, that you have time to be able to handle this and manage this. I know that Alabama has also quarantined other players that were around the 5 that tested positive.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe any of the 5, if you knew their names, it would be any sort of a wow factor for you, as in, oh no, this is going to be of major detriment to their season.
Yeah.
But I do think when you start talking about, okay, these are 5 guys that now have to be quarantined for a certain amount of time. Guys who are around them now have to be quarantined for a certain amount of time. That's a setback, and I don't know how you can spin it any other way. And maybe some of those guys will still be going out and working out on their own, but you've also seen a lot of videos trickle out of Tuscaloosa recently. Their band has a turf football field that's a regulation-sized football field that they practice on. The $1 Million Band practices on that field. I mean, it's got it's you can go find these videos. There's a Jalen Waddle video catching a ball from Bryce Young, the new freshman quarterback, which I don't know what the corner's doing on that play, so we won't talk about how impressive the catch was. But and then there's some offensive line videos of them doing some niter drills, Landon Dickerson and all the guys. That field that they're practicing on, that's for their band. Their band practice right there in the middle of campus. It's a regulation football field. It's like speed turf or whatever, one of the artificial turf surfaces. and it's painted with the lines. It's got the numbers, the logo on the 50. It's got the name of the end zone. Everything looks just like a regulation football field would. So they've been over there working out on that field. And similar to like you guys know about LSU players, a lot of them have been there in Baton Rouge working out, doing stuff on their own. So it's not to say that these guys won't continue to be working out on their own, but they're not going to be able to be around their teammates when things begin next week. So it's a little bit of a setback, but this is going to happen everywhere. This is going to happen at every school. Maybe not as they all roll back. I mean, Ole Miss had 2 guys test positive. I do know that the 5 players at Alabama that tested positive, they were all asymptomatic. So it's not like a lot of them were walking around with a fever or a lot of them were walking around showing signs that they had this. That's a little bit of a cause for concern down the road, because you're going to have guys that have had it, and you're going to have guys that you don't know have it, or they don't know have it. I do think Alabama's doing the antibody test, which is a good thing. I know LSU is going to do that as well. I hope most schools go ahead and do that, because I think that only helps you be able to mitigate the risk moving forward. But this is just going to be a part of it. And I mean, I personally think that we are in the middle of making a huge turn on this entire thing. I mean, you look at New York yesterday, first time in months that they've had no deaths. The rate seems to be going down. I think we're hearing about more and more people who are testing positive but are also asymptomatic. And where that does bring problems, I think it also brings some positives in that, this thing's not something that just buckles you to your knees as soon as you get it. So as far as college football is concerned, I think that we're in the middle of, or maybe approaching, a pretty significant turn as far as coronavirus is concerned.
Talking to Cole Cubelic at Cole Cubelic on Twitter. Hey, look, you can't use the football facilities. You're not allowed. No one ever said you couldn't use the band facilities. Nick, always
fair,
ahead of the curve.
I love that the band's got better facilities than the baseball team a couple of years ago.
Hey.
Jameis Winston got Alabama a new baseball stadium.
Hey, what are you going to do, dude? Hey, so Alabama football this fall, Cole, where do you view them in terms of being a contender and where they stack up against the other contenders? Last year, the secondary was very good. The front 7 maybe not so much. You're replacing Tua. What's your evaluation of the Crimson Tide?
If we had power rankings in the SEC, I would probably have Alabama 1. I think they have the best offensive line returning in college football. They're going to be loaded at tailback. Obviously, Jalen Waddle, Devonta Smith, they're quality wide receivers, but they don't have a dynamic quarterback. And that's not to say Mac Jones can't be good and can't make plays and can't win games, but he's much more Greg McElroy than he is Tua Tagovailoa. And so I think you have to maybe look at, okay, are they going to alter who they are offensively? I think it would be best for them to do that, because the defense is just not going to – the defense took a step back last year. I don't see how they take a big step forward this year.
Huh.
And they added some guys in that coaching staff that I respect and that I think are good. But you mentioned the front 7 last year. Well, Raekwon Davis is gone. He gets drafted by the Dolphins. Anthony Jennings is gone. He gets drafted by the Patriots. DJ Dale and LeBron Ray both left late last year with injuries. Haven't really heard the status on those guys. If those 2 aren't close to 100%, all of a sudden the middle of that defense is in big trouble. And, yeah, Dylan Moses is back, but, is he going to offer you a pass rush off the edge? That's the one thing I think they're missing, T-Bob. I don't think that they have – Christian Barmore has a chance to be a star interior defensive lineman in this league. Inconsistent last year. Didn't begin to play a lot till late last year. And he can be legit, but – I don't know who their individual pass rusher is off the edge, and if it's not Barmore, I don't know who it is opposite him. So I don't think that they have those guys that are going to be able to affect the quarterback as much. And then now you lose Diggs and you lose Xavier McKinney, who was essentially another coach on the field. Xavier McKinney, one thing people don't know about him is he had that Nick Saban ultimate stamp of approval. And when I say that, what I mean is there have been 4 or 5 guys during Nick Saban's tenure that he just – looked at, treated, thought about, talked about in a different way.
Yep.
That almost considered them like a son. Minka Fitzpatrick was one of those guys. Landon Collins was one of those guys. Rolando McClain, when he was in Tuscaloosa, was one of those guys. Well, Xavier McKinney was one of those guys. And so you're not just losing production and versatility and a guy that helped you do a lot of different things on the field. You're losing that kind of leadership and trust on the field as well. So I don't see where these people believe that this defense is taking a big step. Actually, I think that's my biggest concern for this football team would be this defense. Yeah, they've recruited well, they got talent, but they just don't have they'll have a lockdown corner in Patrick Surtain. But opposite him, I don't know. And if, like I said, with Barmore up front, and Dylan Moses maybe, but this is not an Alabama defense of 4 or 5 first rounders and 9, 10 guys that we know are going to get drafted right away. One, we hadn't seen a lot of them, and two, a lot of them hadn't really played the way that we thought they were going to play. So I think the back and forth for Alabama that's going to be tough is they may need to score a lot of points, but they may be an offense that's better suited to play a little more ball control. So then you go down the schedule and you say, all right, how many teams are going to be able to put up 40 points, even against just a good Alabama defense? Well, there's only 2 or 3 on that schedule that would probably fill in that category. Then you look at, all right, well, who can match up with that offensive line? Well, LSU is going to be able to with Apuika and Shelvin and Glenn Logan and those guys. Georgia absolutely is going to be able to match up with that offensive line. Does Auburn have it figured out by the time that they play? Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think A&M with Bobby Brown and Neal and those guys up front that they have, they're going to have a really good defensive line. They might be able to, and they might be catching Alabama at a good time, because we talked about what they might be able to do before they play Alabama, but they got to go to Tuscaloosa. So it's going to be interesting. I think that Georgia game early is a massive swing game for them as far as what they might be the rest of the season.
Shout out to Tex Morris over at Edward Jones, Jefferson Highway, giving us this conversation every week. Cole, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, fellas.
Thanks so much, Cole.
Cole Cubelic checking in this morning. SEC Network, XFL, ESPN.